It's been quite a year for you,
Yeah.
and quite a past couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
You performed at the Grammys,
Mm-hmm.
at the Oscars Governor's Ball.
Yeah.
Uh, people watching on TV might not know that from that stage, you're looking down at the front row, and it's pure royalty.
Yeah, pretty much.
The biggest musicians and artists in the world. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the stage that they had us on, fortunately, was the round stage in the middle.
Okay.
And it was really nice because you kind of feel inundated with people and their energy and, the experience. And so, but still, you glance around and you're just
Sir
like,
Paul
oh.
McCartney or something.
Right, yeah, hey there, Paul McCartney. Hey, there's John Legend there, and I mean, everybody. So it is. I think it's important kind of not to get overwhelmed in the situations. You remember, yeah, I'm here for a reason. I was put here for a reason to do these things. But I was definitely nervous. It was fleeting. It went away. But I was nervous before I went on there.
Sometimes nervousness is a good sign. It means you're on an important stage.
It is. Clive Davis said that, actually. He said, you got to take that nervous energy and put it in your performance. I'm like, yeah, you do,
And I understand the Grammy performance in particular might have caused some nerves because you lost your voice.
I did. I caught strep throat the day before the Grammys. And I just remember, I always tell people, like, I'm a very spiritual person, always praying. I looked up to the heavens and I was like, really? Today? Of all days? I was like, but it was, I got strep throat the night before. I went from being able to sing at Jimmy Iovine's wedding to having no voice at the Clive Davis party that I perform at, and I came off stage and I looked at Ricky Minor and my manager and I was like, what am I going to do, And my family's great. They were all praying for me and, but Ricky, he knew the Dr. Nasiri, and he was like, he's an amazing throat, neck and ears doctor. And so he came through, gave me some antibiotics, was very encouraging. He was like, you will be fine, and so, and I had a voice by some miracle. I had a voice that night.
Well, this must have been a whirlwind of a few months.
Yeah,
I'd imagine a lot of prayers, a lot of last minute things going on. How are you doing with it all?
Great. I'm a one foot in front of the other kind of person. So I live my life moment to moment, day by day. And I think it helps me not to get overwhelmed by everything, but at the same time, it helps me to remain present and to enjoy and be grateful for everything that's happening. And because it is amazing, it's exciting, and I mean, it's a ton of work, you're constantly traveling, and it's not a normal schedule by any stretch of the imagination, but it's incredible, and I'm meeting people who I just grew up admiring and loving, and talking music, philosophy with them, and it's been an incredible experience.
It's a simple lesson, one day at a time, but it is so important.
It's very powerful, absolutely powerful. It's funny because people will ask me, what's your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan? And, I have things that I want to do, you know what I mean? Movies, but on the production side of things, and just starting, missionary work, philanthropic work, and just working with different people in different organizations. But honestly, I'm not really, I was like, if I would have planned this, had a 5-year plan, my life just like far surpassed it. So I'm not into making plans anymore. Things I want to do, but day by day, step by step.
If you're singing at the Grammys that night, it might be hard to think about right? 5 years from now.
That's my plan. What's your 2-year plan? Oh, it was to sing at the Grammy. I'm like, hey, you know what? It's been amazing. I take it as it comes.
Okay, you're a new voice to some people, but this has been a lifelong journey for you.
Yeah.
So tell me about starting out as a singer. When did you know you wanted to sing?
Oh gosh, for a while I've always wanted to be a performing artist. I always knew that. Songwriting, singing. But I was a dancer actually for a very long time, and at first I thought maybe I'll do that. I'll go be prima ballerina. That was a no. Shout out to Misty Copeland. She is the bomb out there representing for all of us. But no.
Ever since you were a kid, you knew you wanted to perform.
Yeah, absolutely. It was always something that was in my DNA. I think my parents always loved music. I was inundated with really great soul music, and I went to performance art school when I was very young. I started attending when I was like 10 years old, and I did jazz vocal performance while I was there. I did musical theater, classical music, and that's when I was first introduced to the jazz singers that I love now, like Billie Holiday and Nina Simone and Ella Fitzgerald and Dinah Washington. And I just remember, because I loved the big voices, obviously Aretha Franklin, Etta James and Patti LaBelle onto the Mariahs and the Whitneys and Celine Dion's. But there was something so different about the texture of Billie Holiday and Nina Simone's voice, and I kind of knew that's the type of music I wanted to be involved
That's
with.
an interesting realization for a young
yeah.
person
Yeah.
to make. At the same time, you grew up in the 90s, and I actually hear some parallels to Lauryn Hill
Yeah, I
in,
love
in what you do, in that you bridge the old with the new, and also the very personal nature of your songwriting. So tell me about her influence on you.
Oh, I listen to everything that she's ever touched, you know what I mean? And still waiting on that next album, but I got the Unplugged too,
Which I think is just stunning.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, everything that she does is amazing, from the Fugees, on down. But I think for me, she reminds me a lot of Nina in that way, where she's very inventive with her music, but she's strong and she's powerful, and she doesn't shy away from the truth and her personal experiences. And when I listen to Lauryn Hill's music, like when I listened to The Miseducation as a young person, she was teaching me, you know what I mean? And I tell people nowadays, I said she was like a prophet, you know what I mean, a teacher, and there's just something about the way she tells a story and the way that she really teaches you a lesson, you know what I mean? And that is not invasive, you know what I mean? It's it doesn't shy away from the truth, but it doesn't make you feel like condemned either, you know? And I love that about her songwriting and just her as an artist. She has inspired me so much.
A rare artist.
She is, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you've told this story many times, but I have to hear it again. And also for our audience, you were discovered by Kai Millard, a designer who was married to Stevie Wonder at the time. Could you tell our audience that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two of them are really who discovered me and brought me into the scene. And actually, I was singing in front of a storefront at a little strip mall in Malibu with like a mic and an amp and like some clothes that were probably too small for me. But she got a hold of the clip. She was actually in like a shopping center, I think, one day, and the guy I was working with at the time showed her the clip, and then she told him, hey, I'm Stevie Wonder's wife, and, really into music and design. And so she played it for Stevie, who also loved it. And so he said, well, give her a call. I love her voice. I want to talk to her, and so we were on the phone, and oh my God.
Speaking of royalty.
Yeah, there you go. The king, right? But it was just, oh gosh, it was such an incredible experience. I always tell people, actually, had I not known the call was coming in, I would have hung up the phone. Like, there's no way I would have taken, I'm Stevie Wonder. I'd be like, okay, all right, man.
And I think I hear him a little bit on the album. Is that?
Yeah, he's playing harmonica.
His harmonica?
On City Burns. Yeah. So it was really, he called to talk about songwriting and astrology a lot, but it didn't work out at the time. I actually was in a situation that was not good, and I was with somebody who was pretty dishonest, and it happens, but I definitely learned what to look out for.
Like professionally, someone who was?
Yeah, exactly. But a year and a half later, by grace, the two of them held on to my information and reached out to me again to say, we hope you're not working with that person. We really want to work with you. We think you're amazing. And he introduced me actually to the producer, Adrian Gervitz, who I eventually did the album with. So it was crazy.
And as the story goes, that you worked with that producer. You also worked with Questlove on this album.
Yeah.
Raphael Sadiq.
Yeah.
Spike Lee directed your first video.
Yeah.
This is your debut record.
Yeah.
How did you...
That's funny.
How did you manage to not be overwhelmed throughout that process?
You know what? I always tell people I'm a very spiritual person, like I said, and I actually think it's my relationship with God that helped me with that, because I think when I was younger, I used to be terrified of I'm not smart enough, I'm not articulate enough, I'm not, cultured or talented or whatever enough. And, I've been in situations now, even in my personal life, where I've been thrown into very uncomfortable situations where I have to just be honest and I have to just be there and be exposed and be vulnerable. And I think that sort of helped train me, because, if Spike Lee wants to do your video, I'm like, oh God, there's no way he's going to like anything I have to say, but everybody, and also to their credit, everyone that I met and just kind of threw myself in the situation was so down to earth and so nurturing and so cool. And I think they're aware of who they are essentially, and do things to really diffuse the environment and the atmosphere so that we can be comfortable and work. And Raphael was actually really like that too. And so we were in there for months, working on the record together. So it was amazing.
In terms of that courage that you found a lot through the spiritual side of your life, the lyrics on this album are quite brave, very personal.
Oh, thank you.
And many of them reflect the other side of heartbreak that we don't often hear in pop songs, being the one who broke a heart.
Yeah.
Tell me about the decision to share that perspective and where that came from.
Yeah, you know what? It took a lot I was in a relationship for a long time with someone for 8 years. And I wasn't good to them. I cheated on them. I lied to them, and really kind of recklessly. He was reckless with their emotions. And it was years before I even, I finally got up the courage really through my faith to be like, you have to go tell this person the truth. You have to be honest with yourself about who you've become and what you're capable of. And you need to go be honest with them because they deserve freedom and so do you. You know what I mean? And so telling, my ex the truth was really one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life, and he would ask questions. Well, did you do this? And I'm like, oh my God, I did, and I can't, if I'm going to tell you the whole truth, I can't sit here and lie to you. And so I think it was hard, first of all, seeing what it did to him. It was hard, secondly, dealing with the guilt and the shame of that. Sometimes I think that can even weigh heavier than heartbreak. And so once I got through that, which was a challenging period in my life, I got to a point where the freedom that I experienced because of that was, palpable. You couldn't put a price tag on it. And so when I was endeavoring to make this album, it was, post all of that. And I prayed about it. And I said, what should I talk about? I don't know what to write about. I don't know. And I was really moved to just tell the truth. You know what I mean? Tell the truth about your life, your experience. You went through it for a reason. And whenever you feel like sugarcoating it, like, oh, I didn't really tell the whole truth about the situation. And because there are people out there, I think we hear a lot about heartbreak. I got my heart broken. But there are a lot of people out there who have been, the perpetrator. And
there's a lot of difficult feelings that come with that.
There's a lot. And if you're willing to if you actually feel any remorse, if you're willing to, be accountable and you're willing to be honest and vulnerable and take the criticism. People are going to say bad things about you, of course, you know what I mean? And if you're willing to be honest and be vulnerable and heal through that, then the freedom is just unreal. There is freedom. There's redemption. You're not always the bad guy. And so I think people needed to know that,
Wow. What was your songwriting like before that, before you unlocked that, before you found that freedom?
Like angry woman songwriting, but stuff that I hadn't really experienced, I was just like, I'd look at what some of these songwriters would write about. But, when I first graduated, actually, because I had decided really that I loved jazz and that was the music I loved to do. But when I graduated, people were like, you got to do like straight ahead pop and R&B to make it. And I was like, okay. I was young. I was like hungry. I could do this, So everything was probably like some like Destiny's Child, you know what I'm saying? Independent woman, I don't need you, type of record. But it did progress. It definitely progressed. And I listened back to some of those songs and I'm like, oh, shoot. I could see similarities to what I do now, but I could definitely see how it's grown and evolved and changed. And I had to get to a point where I discovered I'm a storyteller. Like that's the kind of writer that I am, And so it kind of felt my way through that into that position.
I'm imagining the process of working on this album, given that the songs are so personal. Did that open up conversations behind the scenes? Interesting moments with your collaborators about where these songs are coming from?
Yeah, I think I actually remember being in the studio with Raphael Sadiq and him listening to the record. Oh, I love it, blah, 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 and talking about these songs. And he, asked me about Gold, because we worked on that song together. And so I brought it because we had a record. We had Gold when we came in, but I wanted like a different flavor on it. And, and so he's listening to the record. He's like, so what are you talking about here? I said, so I was talking about cheating on my boyfriend. He was like, you cheated on your friend? I was like, bruh. But it was kind of cool because I think it was, first of all, with just speaking of like him and I, we would definitely be in the studio and have really great conversations about relationships and, where his head was at with, his love life and talking about, the spirituality behind it all and just like really like kind of cool philosophical moments. There'd be times we wouldn't even work on music, you know what I mean? And we just sit there and we just talk and we'd rap and I think it really helped with the process. And then with my producer who I did the album with, Adrian Gervitz as well, he would tell me about experiences in his life, and him and his wife have been married for a very long time and they actually have an incredible marriage. And she was married previously and had kids from a previous marriage. And he would talk about, taking them in and really adopting them and, the love that he experienced from it and the challenges he faced. Like it was all this whole process, I will tell you, has been therapeutic and very spiritual and healing for a lot of us, I think, and we're all like this now. You know what I mean?
So well, even great. I mean, this album came out in the summer, but even hearing you talk now, you still have such a passion for these ideas, right?
I do, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're ideas that, I regret breaking someone's heart, but I don't regret who I am now because of that. So these ideas have helped shape and mold me. I mean, they've crafted me into who I am, now, and it'll continue, for the rest of my life. And so it's nice. Yeah. I am definitely still appreciative of it. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back to this journey that you've been on, performing at the Grammys, touring with Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah.
Meeting Barack Obama twice.
Yeah.
And I read Barack Obama told you he was proud of you.
Yeah.
I almost teared up just reading that.
Oh my gosh. At that experience, even right now, I just got goosebumps again. That's so crazy. But I think particularly because my parents were there. So to have my parents be at the White House with me, I don't think they ever thought they'd be there. I never thought I'd be there, and so to walk in and have the president and the first lady say, "Oh, we're so proud of you," while my parents are standing there listening, just really made me so emotional. And, they were like, we're, enjoying watching your rise, and we saw you on the Grammys, and we're like, that's our girl. I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, make me up a room then, because I'm staying. No, I'm kidding. But no, it was really such an incredible experience. I'm so glad my parents got to be there. It was such a special moment. It really was.
In terms of not thinking that you would be there, many young artists might have moved on from this career after, working through a lot of their 20s and trying to, catch a break. But you didn't give up, and you're definitely reaping the rewards now. What kept you going in those leaner years?
You know what's funny? I think I don't think I ever really had a plan B, when I was younger. It was just, okay, the same way someone's like, hey, I'm gonna, finish school and I'm gonna go be a lawyer. Like that was the same process, and I knew that it was painful going through some of these lessons, and it was difficult struggling through some things in my career. And, I almost signed to like Akon and Divine and Divine Stevens in Atlanta, and having people be interested and then not interested, or working with someone who would lie to me and tell me, oh, they're not interested because they wouldn't pay them a certain amount of money. I mean, these are all horror stories that a lot of artists go through. But, I think, I don't know, maybe I was just always believed it would happen somehow, some way. And I think now in the later years, it's really just, I look back and now I realize, gosh, people always look at time as an enemy, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's a friend. You develop, you grow, you mature, you have content and you have depth and you have experience and
I've read you say that you think you might not have been ready for it.
Yeah.
Until now.
Absolutely. 100%.
What do you mean by that?
I don't think emotionally and spiritually and mentally, I don't think I was ready for it. I think the difference back then was I was doing music to be famous, to be successful. I loved it, but I did it because I'm like, oh, I want people to see me. I want them to experience me. I want them, and I realized in my life the reason it didn't happen, I kind of had to be broken of that. You know what I mean? And because, now later on in my life, I do it so people can experience, love, the love of God, peace, the stuff that I've experienced and that I've grown into, to be a walking, living testimony to people, And so when I was young, that's not what I was doing it for. You know what I mean? I was doing it because, I was like, I'm cute. You know what I mean? I can sing. I love music, blah, 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 whatever. So it just, is immature. You know what I mean? I wasn't ready for that.
Well, it's exciting to have you here sharing your music and sharing your story. It's an incredible record. You're going to perform one more song.
Yes.
And what song is that going to be?
Rise Up.
Rise Up. I think that's a fitting way to close this out.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.